Did you know that worldwide, 1 in 10 people get sick every single year from contaminated food? That's more than 600 million people, and a big part of that happens because of foods that aren't kept hot enough, cold enough, or handled properly. And on a cruise ship, those risks get even higher. Food sits out longer, thousands of people use the same serving utensils, and temperature control isn't as perfect as it is on land. Most passengers have no idea that some of the foods on the buffet line are the biggest sources of food poisoning, and they're the foods people grab every day without thinking. In this video, we're counting down the 25 foods you should never eat on a cruise if you want to avoid getting sick. And believe me, the last few are the ones almost everyone eats. Let's start with the biggest offender, the one cruise ship medical staff warn people about more than anything else. Food number 1, raw oysters or raw shellfish. Raw oysters are the single most dangerous thing you can eat on a cruise. Oysters work like little filters. Everything in the water they live in, bacteria, viruses, and even sewage contamination, gets trapped inside them. On land, oyster farms are heavily monitored and restaurants follow strict handling rules. They're chilled correctly, eaten quickly, and usually served the same day they're shucked. Cruise ships are different. Oysters can be stored for long periods before they're served. Many times they're pre-shucked and placed on trays of melting ice for hours. Every time a passenger lifts the lid, the temperature drops. And here's the worst part. Norovirus survives extremely well inside raw shellfish. You only need a tiny amount to get violently sick. Cruise doctors say this is the top food that sends passengers to the medical center. Symptoms hit fast: vomiting, diarrhea, stomach cramps, fever, and dehydration. It can take days to recover, and it spreads easily to everyone in the cabin. If you want seafood, stick to fully cooked options like grilled shrimp, steamed mussels, or baked fish. But raw shellfish on a cruise? That's a guaranteed way to ruin your holiday. Food number 2, sushi or sashimi from the buffet. Buffet sushi is another high-risk food passengers don't think twice about. Raw fish must be kept below 4 degrees Celsius at all times to stay safe. But on a cruise buffet, that temperature is almost impossible to maintain. The trays sit out too long, the ice melts, the coolers fluctuate, and the fish gets handled by hundreds of people using the same tongs. Another issue is quality. True sushi-grade fish is flash frozen at extremely low temperatures to kill parasites. Cruise ships source fish from many ports, and sometimes the raw fish used on buffet sushi has been sitting in storage for days or weeks. Even if it tastes fine, bacteria and parasites can still be present. Made-to-order sushi in a specialty restaurant is usually much safer. It's freshly prepared, stored properly, and handled by trained staff. But buffet sushi is a completely different story. It might look pretty, but once raw fish has been sitting out for any amount of time, the risk shoots up. If you're craving sushi on a cruise, pay for the specialty restaurant. But the buffet version? Skip it. It's not worth spending the next 48 hours in the bathroom. Food number 3, lukewarm scrambled eggs from the buffet. Scrambled eggs are supposed to be served hot, really hot, because eggs are one of the easiest foods for salmonella to grow in. On a cruise buffet, those big trays of eggs are usually cooked early in the morning and then sit in warming pans for a long time. Every time someone lifts the lid, heat escapes and the temperature drops. Once eggs fall below the safe temperature, bacteria multiply fast, especially in wet, runny eggs. The biggest danger is that it's almost impossible to tell how long the eggs have been sitting there or what temperature they're actually at. They might look fresh on top, but the bottom layer could have been sitting in the danger zone for hours. If you want eggs on a cruise, the safest options are the omelet station, where the staff cooks each serving right in front of you, or hard-boiled eggs that are fully cooked and less likely to sit in unsafe temperatures. But that giant pan of lukewarm buffet eggs? That's a gamble you don't want to take. Food number 4, deli meats and cold cuts. Deli meats look harmless: turkey, ham, roast beef. But they're one of the riskiest foods on a cruise buffet. The problem is listeria, a bacteria that can grow even in the fridge. Once deli meat is sliced, the clock starts ticking. The more it sits, the higher the risk. On cruise ships, cold cuts are sliced in bulk, stored in large containers, and left uncovered while passengers reach over them. People use the wrong tongs, touch the trays, or lean over the food while talking. Cross-contamination is constant. Another issue is turnover. Hot food gets replaced quickly because everyone eats it. Cold cuts don't. They sit longer than people realize. The top layer may look okay, But underneath could be meat that's been sitting out since breakfast or even the night before. Listeria infections can be serious: fever, nausea, stomach pain, and in some cases, the symptoms don't appear for weeks, so people don't even connect it to the cruise. If you want a sandwich, choose one with freshly heated meat or grab sealed, individually packaged items. But open trays of deli meats on a cruise buffet, they're not worth the risk. Before we keep going, just a quick reminder: if you're finding this helpful, make sure to hit like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and lets me make more videos like this. And just to be clear, this video isn't meant to put anyone off cruising. Cruising is still one of the best holidays you can take, and I still cruise all the time. This is simply so you can understand the risks behind certain foods and make your own choices. Once you know what to look out for, it's easy to avoid the problem foods and enjoy your trip without worrying. Food number 5, pre-cut fruit salad. Fruit seems healthy and harmless, which is why so many passengers load up their plates with it. But on a cruise buffet, pre-cut fruit is one of the worst things you can eat. The moment fruit is cut, its protective skin is gone, and the inside becomes exposed to bacteria from cutting boards, knives, and the hands that prepared it. Most cruise ships cut their fruit hours before it reaches the buffet. Some even prepare it the night before. Then, it sits in big trays where the temperature isn't cold enough to stop bacteria from multiplying. Melons like cantaloupe and honeydew are especially risky because their rough outer skin traps bacteria that transfer straight to the flesh when sliced. Passengers also lean over the fruit bowls, talk while serving, use the wrong ladles, and touch the edges of the trays. All of this increases contamination and keeps bacteria spreading. If you want fruit, grab whole fruit like bananas, oranges, apples, or anything with skin you peel yourself. Those are safe. But the big tray of mixed fruit salad that's been sitting out since early morning? That's an easy way to get sick. Food number 6, undercooked fish, medium rare salmon, or seared tuna. Many cruise dining rooms serve fish that's seared on the outside but still raw in the middle. On land, this might be fine if the fish is extremely fresh and stored perfectly. But on a cruise ship, there are too many variables. The fish may have been frozen and thawed more than once, stored for weeks, or transported from multiple ports with different handling standards. If the fish isn't fully cooked all the way through, parasites and bacteria can survive. One of the biggest risks is anisakis, a parasitic worm found in many types of fish. If you eat it alive, it can cause severe stomach pain, vomiting, and may require medical treatment. The safest way to eat fish on a cruise is to request it well done or fully cooked. Yes, it's not the same as a restaurant-style medium rare salmon, but at sea you don't know how many times that fish has been frozen, thawed, moved, or stored. Cooking it properly removes the risk completely. If you want seafood, choose grilled salmon, baked white fish, or anything cooked thoroughly. But anything rare or pink in the middle is not worth the risk on a ship. Food number 7, buffet chicken that looks dry or old. Chicken is one of the most common foods linked to food poisoning, and on a cruise buffet it becomes even riskier. Chicken must stay above a certain temperature to stay safe, but once it sits out for too long, different parts cool down at different speeds. The top might stay warm, but the pieces underneath can fall into the danger zone where bacteria grow fast. Another problem is cross-contamination. Passengers use the same tongs for different foods, drip raw chicken juice from their plates back into the trays, or touch the serving utensils with dirty hands. Once that happens, the whole tray is at risk. Even cooked chicken can become contaminated very easily. Dried out chicken is a clear sign it's been sitting there a long time. If it looks tough, pale, rubbery, or if the tray looks half empty and not steaming, skip it. The safest chicken on a cruise is the kind cooked in small batches, like the grill by the pool, or chicken served in the main dining room, where it's cooked fresh in the kitchen and brought straight to the table. Food number 8, soft-serve ice cream machines. Soft-serve ice cream seems innocent, but the machines are very hard to keep clean. They have pipes, tubes, and internal parts where dairy residue gets stuck. If the machine isn't taken apart and cleaned correctly, which is a long and detailed job, bacteria can grow inside the system and form a layer called biofilm. Once biofilm forms, every serving becomes contaminated. On busy cruise days, staff don't always have time to fully clean these machines. Some ships leave them running for long hours, and passengers constantly touch the handles, lick drips, and let their kids pull the lever themselves, which adds even more contamination to the outside. It only takes one poorly cleaned internal part for bacteria to spread into every bowl or cone. That's why cruise medical staff often warn people about soft serve machines specifically. If you want ice cream, choose prepackaged ice cream bars or scoops from sealed tubs in the dining room. Those are handled in controlled conditions, but the soft serve machine? Skip it. It's simply too unpredictable. Food number 9, mayo-based salads, like potato salad, pasta salad, and coleslaw. These salads are some of the most dangerous items on a cruise buffet, not because of the mayonnaise itself, but because of how quickly they spoil when they aren't kept cold enough. Once mayo is mixed with potatoes, pasta, vegetables, or eggs, it becomes a perfect environment for bacteria to grow if the temperature rises even slightly. On cruise ships, these salads often sit out for hours during brunches, lunch buffets, and afternoon snack times. The trays are opened constantly, the ice underneath melts, and the food slowly warms up. By the time you see it, it may have been in the danger zone for a long time. This is especially risky on hot weather cruises, where the buffet area gets warmer than usual. Another huge issue is cross-contamination. Passengers mix up the serving spoons, spill other foods into the bowls, or even put used utensils back into the trays. All it takes is one person's plate, contaminated with raw meat juice, germs, or other bacteria, to turn the entire salad into a problem. If you want something creamy, look for freshly made sides in the dining room, where they're prepared in small batches and served quickly. But those big bowls of mayo-based salads sitting on the buffet? Leave them alone. Food number 10, breakfast food, put out before the rush. Eating early might seem smart, but the first trays that appear on the buffet are often the ones that have been sitting the longest. Many cruise kitchens prepare their earliest breakfast items hours before passengers arrive. Scrambled eggs, bacon, sausages, hash browns, and fruit are sometimes cooked at 4 or 5 a.m., then placed into warming trays that may not hold temperature perfectly. If you arrive at the buffet right when it opens, you're often getting food that has been sitting there the longest. And on cruise buffets, the longer food sits, the more bacteria multiply, especially in warm, moist items like eggs and breakfast potatoes. By comparison, the food served during the breakfast rush is usually the safest because it turns over quickly. The kitchen brings out fresh pans non-stop, so nothing sits long enough for bacteria to grow. If you want the safest breakfast, aim for peak time, or choose the main dining room, where breakfast is cooked fresh and served immediately. But the early morning buffet trays? Those are the ones most likely to have been sitting around the longest. Food number 11, shrimp cocktail rings. Shrimp cocktail looks fancy and safe, but on cruise ships, it's one of the easiest foods to mishandle. These shrimp usually arrive on the ship frozen in large bags, then get thawed in bulk before service. Once thawed, shrimp have a very short window where they're safe to eat. After that, bacteria grow fast, especially when the shrimp sit on ice that slowly melts. On buffets, the shrimp often sit out during the entire lunch service, and then again at dinner. You can't tell how many hours they've been there, when they were thawed, or if they were kept at the right temperature between services. Another issue is passengers touching the shrimp with fingers, mixing up the tongs, or dropping used shrimp tails back into the serving bowl. Shrimp is one of the quickest foods to spoil, and once it does, it can cause stomach cramps, vomiting, and diarrhea just a few hours after eating it. If you want shrimp on a cruise, choose hot, freshly cooked shrimp dishes from the dining room. But cold shrimp cocktail rings sitting on ice? They're too risky. Food number 12, soft cheeses, like brie, camembert, and blue cheese. Soft cheeses can be delicious, but they're also known for carrying listeria if they sit out too long. On cruise ships, cheese platters are prepared in advance and brought to the buffet where they can sit for hours at room temperature. Soft cheeses spoil much faster than hard cheeses, and once they warm up, bacteria begin to multiply quickly. Passengers also cross-contaminate cheese boards without realizing it. They touch the cheese with their fingers, cut pieces with the wrong knife, or drip other foods onto the platter. Because soft cheeses are so moist, they hold on to bacteria easily. Listeria infections can be serious, especially for pregnant people, older adults, or anyone with a weaker immune system. And cruise buffets aren't the place where you want to roll the dice with cheese that might have been sitting out since the last service. If you want cheese, stick to hard cheeses like cheddar or Parmesan, which are much safer. But the soft, creamy cheeses sitting on a warm buffet table? It's better to skip them. Food number 13, pre-made grab-and-go sandwiches. Those wrapped sandwiches in the cooler look convenient, but they're often made hours before you ever see them. On cruise ships, staff usually prepare these in large batches early in the morning. Then they sit in chilled displays where the temperature isn't always consistent, especially when passengers keep opening and closing the doors. Anything with mayo, egg, tuna, sliced meats, or cheese becomes high risk once the internal temperature rises even a little. And because these are pre-made, you have no idea how long the fillings have been sitting out before the sandwich was assembled. Some may have been stored from a previous meal service and simply reused. The biggest problem is that grab-and-go food gives the illusion of being safer because it's wrapped. But wrapping only keeps out air. It doesn't stop bacteria that already grew while the sandwich was sitting in the prep kitchen, the fridge, or the display case. If you want a sandwich, get one made fresh at a deli counter or order from the dining room. But the wrapped, pre-assembled sandwiches? Skip them. They're one of the easiest foods for bacteria to grow in when temperatures aren't perfect. Food number 14. Frozen cocktail machines. These drinks might taste refreshing, but the machines they come from are much riskier than people realize. Frozen slushie machines work almost exactly like soft-serve ice cream machines. They have internal tubes and parts where sugary mix sticks and dries. If those parts aren't scrubbed and sanitized properly every single day, bacteria start to build up. On a cruise, with non-stop passengers, long operating hours, and staff running between stations, these machines don't always get the deep cleaning they're supposed to. The sugary mix inside them is the perfect food source for bacteria and mold. And just like soft serve, once the machine is contaminated, every drink that comes out carries that contamination. Another issue is alcohol doesn't kill germs in these drinks. The amount of alcohol in frozen cocktails is too low to stop bacterial growth. And when the mix sits in warm areas before being poured into the machine, the risk increases even more. If you want a drink, choose one that's shaken or stirred fresh, or a bottled drink. But anything coming from a frozen slushie machine, especially on a busy cruise day, is better to avoid entirely. Food number 15. Buffet soups, especially creamy ones. Soup sounds like one of the safest foods on a cruise, but buffet soups, especially creamy ones like chowders, bisques, and cream-based vegetable soups, can be surprisingly risky. That's because the warming pots on buffets don't heat evenly. The top might feel hot, but the middle or bottom can stay at a temperature where bacteria survive and multiply. Creamy soups are the biggest problem because dairy, cream, and flour thickeners create a warm, moist environment that bacteria love. If the soup isn't kept above a safe temperature at all times, bacteria such as Staphylococcus or Bacillus can grow very quickly. And once those start producing toxins, reheating the soup later won't fix it. The toxins stay active. Another issue is turnover. Hot dishes like pasta or carving stations get replaced fast. Soup does not. Many passengers skip soup entirely, which means the same pot can sit there for hours with almost no movement. Staff might stir it occasionally, but stirring doesn't kill anything. It only mixes everything together. If you really want soup, get it from the main dining room, where it's made in smaller batches and served straight from the kitchen. But buffet soup, especially creamy soup that's been sitting around, that's one of the easiest foods to get sick from on a cruise. Food number 16. Raw vegetable platters. Raw vegetables seem harmless, but on a cruise buffet, they're a common source of contamination. Veggies like celery, carrots, cucumbers, and broccoli are often washed in large batches, chopped early in the day, and stored in big containers before being dumped into buffet trays. The longer cut vegetables sit before being eaten, the higher the risk of bacteria multiplying on their moist surfaces. Another hidden issue is topping up. Cruise buffets often don't replace the whole tray. They just add fresh vegetables on top of the old ones. So the bottom layer could be several hours old, while the top looks crisp and new. You can't tell which is which. Raw vegetables are also one of the foods passengers touch the most. People pick up pieces with their fingers, drip dressing back into the trays, or lean over while talking. Some even dip vegetables straight into sauces and then put them back. All of that spreads bacteria very quickly. If you want vegetables, the safest choice is cooked ones, steamed, grilled, or sautéed. Cooking kills any bacteria that might have been on the surface, but raw veggie trays sitting in the buffet area, they're not worth the risk. Food number 17. Salad bar eggs that are already peeled. Those bowls of peeled hard-boiled eggs might look convenient, but they're one of the easiest foods on a cruise buffet to mishandle. Hard-boiled eggs are safe when freshly cooked and cooled properly. The problem begins the moment they're peeled. Without the shell, The egg becomes fully exposed to moisture, bacteria from handling, and contamination from the air or other foods. On cruise ships, these eggs are often peeled in large batches early in the morning, or even the night before, then stored in containers with water or moisture to keep them from drying out. That moisture grows bacteria very quickly, especially if the temperature isn't kept perfectly cold. Then, they're dumped into a buffet bowl where hundreds of passengers grab them using the same tongs. Some people even pick up eggs with their fingers and put them back. Add in the constant opening and closing of the lid, warm air hitting the eggs, and bits of other foods dropping into the bowl, and you've got the perfect setup for contamination. If you want eggs, choose freshly cooked ones from the omelet station, or grab unpeeled hard-boiled eggs if the ship offers them. But the pre-peeled salad bar eggs sitting in a bowl, it's better to leave those alone. Food number 18, seafood salads. Shrimp salad, crab salad, tuna salad. Seafood salads are extremely risky on cruises because they combine two high-risk categories: seafood and mayo-based mixtures. Shrimp salad, crab salad, tuna salad, they're all made ahead of time in big batches, and once mixed, they spoil fast if they aren't kept cold constantly. The problem is that buffets often place these dishes on top of shallow ice or in trays that warm up as the service goes on. As the temperature rises, bacteria multiply quickly in the creamy mixture. And because these salads are thick, cold spots and warm spots develop, making it hard to tell what's safe and what isn't. Seafood itself is very temperature sensitive. If it was thawed hours before, not handled perfectly, or sat out during prep, it already had a higher chance of contamination before it ever reached the buffet. Add mayo, warm air from hundreds of passengers, and cross-contamination from serving utensils, and the risk goes way up. If you want seafood, choose hot dishes like grilled fish, baked salmon, or shrimp cooked fresh from the kitchen. But cold seafood salads sitting in a bowl on the buffet? Those are an easy way to get sick quickly. Food number 19, cream-filled pastries. Cream-filled pastries look harmless and delicious, but on a cruise buffet, they're one of the fastest foods to spoil. Anything filled with custard, mousse, whipped cream, or pastry cream needs to stay cold the entire time. Once these desserts warm up even a little, bacteria start growing quickly inside the filling. And because it's hidden, you can't see when it's going bad. Most cruise buffets put these desserts out long before passengers arrive. Staff restock them throughout the day, but sometimes older pastries get mixed in with fresh ones. The trays also sit under warm lights, and passengers stand over them while talking or breathing on them, which adds even more contamination. The other issue is handling. People accidentally touch the edges, use the wrong tongs, or pick up a pastry and put it back. All of that spreads bacteria directly onto the filling and icing. If you really want dessert, stick to baked items like cookies, brownies, or plain cakes. Things that don't have cream, custard, or mousse inside. But the cream-filled pastries sitting in a warm dessert section, those are one of the easiest ways to get food poisoning without even realizing it. Food number 20, fresh juice from dispensers. Juice dispensers seem safe, but the inside of these machines can get very dirty if not cleaned properly. Fruit juice contains natural sugars that stick to the tubes, spouts, and internal containers. When these parts aren't scrubbed and sanitized every day, bacteria and mold start to grow. And cruise ships are busy places, so these machines don't always get the full cleaning they need. Another problem is temperature. Juice needs to be kept cold. But when the dispenser sits out for long periods or gets used constantly, the temperature can fluctuate. Warm, sugary liquid becomes the perfect place for bacteria to multiply quickly. Passengers also touch the spout, let the cup rim hit the metal, or splash juice onto the machine, adding even more contamination. And because the dispenser looks clean on the outside, passengers assume the inside is clean too, when that's not always the case. If you want juice, go for sealed bottles or cartons, or have it poured fresh from the bar. But the big self-serve juice dispensers on the buffet? They're a hidden risk many people don't realize. Food number 21, fruit-infused water dispensers. Lemon water, cucumber water. These dispensers look refreshing and healthy, but they're actually one of the easiest places for bacteria to grow. The problem starts with the fruit. Once lemons, limes, oranges, or cucumbers are sliced, they begin to break down. When those slices sit in warm or room temperature water for hours, the water quickly becomes a breeding ground for bacteria. On a cruise ship, fruit-infused water is usually made early in the day and then left sitting out for long periods without the fruit being replaced. The water may look cold, But the temperature inside the container isn't always consistent. And because fruit naturally contains sugars, those sugars leak into the water and feed bacteria even faster. Passengers also touch the spout, bump their cups against it, or place their fingers around the opening, adding even more contamination. None of that is cleaned between uses. It just keeps collecting germs as the day goes on. If you want infused water, make your own in your cabin with washed fruit. But the shared dispensers sitting on the buffet or pool deck, they're best avoided. Food number 22. Taco or minced meat trays. Ground meats like taco mince, sloppy Joe mix, chili, or Bolognese-style sauces seem safe because they are hot. But ground meat is one of the highest risk foods when it comes to holding temperatures. It cools down quickly, and if even part of the tray drops below the safe zone, bacteria can grow rapidly. The issue on cruise buffets is that these trays are often left out for long stretches and stirred only occasionally. The top may look hot and fresh, but the bottom layer might have been sitting there for a long time. And ground meat spoils faster than whole cuts of meat because bacteria spread through it evenly. Another problem is passengers mixing serving utensils, dripping raw salad toppings into the meat trays, or letting the ladle touch their plate and then dropping it back in. All of this cross-contaminates the entire batch. If you want tacos or ground meat dishes, the safest choice is to get them from staffed stations or the dining room, where the meat is cooked in smaller batches and served straight from the kitchen. But the big buffet trays of taco meat? Those are one of the most common items to sit too long and become unsafe. Food number 23. Self-serve salsa, hummus, and dip bowls. These bowls are some of the most contaminated items on any buffet, and cruise ships are no exception. Thick dips like salsa, hummus, spinach dip, queso, bean dip, and guacamole are constantly touched, mixed, and accidentally cross-contaminated by passengers. People use the wrong spoon, drip food into the bowl, double dip without realizing, or even touch the edges with their fingers. Because dips are thick, cold spots and warm spots develop easily, and the surface tends to collect germs from the air and from passengers leaning over the bowls. Once even a small amount of bacteria gets into thick dips, it spreads fast and is almost impossible to detect by smell or taste. Many cruise buffets also top up dip bowls instead of replacing them, so the bottom layer might be hours old. The top looks fresh, but underneath is a mix that's been sitting far too long at unsafe temperatures. If you want dips, choose sealed, individual packets, like the butter and jam stations, or dips served by staff in the dining room. But open bowls of shared dips on a buffet? Those are one of the biggest germ hotspots on the ship. Food number 24. Topped up buffet trays, fresh food added to old food. This is one of the most shocking hidden risks on cruise buffets because most passengers don't even know it happens. Instead of replacing an entire tray, some buffet staff simply take a new batch of food and add it on top of whatever is already in the tray. It saves time, but it also means the older food is buried underneath. You might see steam rising from the top and assume the whole tray is fresh, but the older food underneath could have been sitting there for hours. That bottom layer may have dropped below the safe temperature long ago, and bacteria multiply fastest in partially cooled food. Passengers also mix serving utensils, spill other foods into the tray, or touch the handles with unwashed hands, which spreads contamination throughout the entire dish, including the older food at the bottom. If you want the safest food, look for fresh trays being brought out, or choose dishes from stations where staff serve you, like carving stations, the grill, or made-to-order counters. But any tray that looks topped up instead of replaced should be avoided. Food number 25, the chocolate fountain. This one surprises people the most because chocolate fountains look fun and harmless. But on a cruise ship, they're easily one of the most contaminated food stations you'll ever see. The problem isn't the chocolate itself. It's the constant stream of passengers dipping food into the same flowing pool over and over again. Kids touch the chocolate with their fingers. Adults accidentally double dip without thinking. People drop half-eaten strawberries back in, splash chocolate on the serving area, or let their skewer brush against the fountain. Every one of those actions introduces germs into the chocolate, and because the fountain stays warm, not hot, bacteria can survive and spread through the entire system. Another issue is the machinery. The inside of the fountain has grooves and moving parts where chocolate collects and thickens. If the staff don't fully disassemble and clean every piece, and that's a long process, leftover chocolate from the previous service can grow bacteria. On top of that, the chocolate isn't held at a high enough temperature to kill anything that gets into it. It's warm enough to run smoothly, but not hot enough to make it safe. If you love chocolate, go for pre-made chocolate desserts or items served by staff, like chocolate-dipped fruit prepared in a kitchen. But the communal fountain where hundreds of hands and skewers pass through the same chocolate? That's one of the biggest hidden risks on any cruise buffet. And that's it. Those are the 25 foods you should avoid on a cruise if you want to stay healthy and enjoy your holiday. Have you ever had food poisoning before? If you have, let me know in the comments and tell me if you remember what might have caused it. I'd love to hear your story. Also, if you watched all the way to the end, write cruise for you in the comments so I can thank you personally. And please share this video with a friend who's going cruising. It might stop them from getting sick on their trip. Thanks so much for watching. I think you'll really enjoy the video on the end screen. Click here to find out if you're the kind of passenger cabin stewards love, or the kind they secretly hate.